pleasure to talk to you today about not thinking big, but thinking smart. This particularly has to do with the topic of building AI systems that we can trust. And I'm going to spend about 8 to 9 minutes setting up the context, and then Lord Holmes and I will have a fireside chat discussing this topic. So much has been talked about AI from the perspective of the power of AI to do great, but I don't think enough is being talked about in terms of the impact of AI, in terms of both creating financial and social inclusion, as well as creating, I guess, a diversity or divergence of opportunities. So we've heard people like Sundar Pichai from Google say AI is as fundamentally important to mankind as fire and electricity was. That's one optimistic aspect of AI. Then you also had people like Stephen Hawking saying this could be our last big innovation. This could be it, because we are building systems that essentially could go rogue on us. We're talking about a Terminator scenario here. So where is the reality? And I'm here to talk to you and frame about this notion of how to build AI that is both performant as well as AI that can be controlled and managed properly. So let's start with what exactly is AI. This is one of the most misunderstood terms in the industry. I probably spoke to 50 or 60 boards last year, and my first thing to them is AI is too important to be left to technologists. It's a strategic business capability and has to be understood as such. At the heart, what we are talking about is AI is not machine learning, deep learning, none of the stuff. That's like saying my carburetor is my car. Deep learning is a component. Machine learning is a component of an AI system. In essence, what AI is non-biological intelligence. This is the first time we're building intelligence that learns, that's not biological. Now, there is a scientific definition of AI, which is systems, computer systems that learn from patterns. And that's where you hear most of the stuff around AI. Machine learning, computer vision, natural language processing, so on and so forth. The part I tend to think more about is the application of it, the business approach. We're talking about systems that emulate and extend how the human mind, the human brain starts making decisions, right? So I think the framing of this is quite important. AI, to me, are feedback-driven systems that create better experiences and better business processes. If it does not have a feedback loop, it's not an AI. If it doesn't learn, it's not an AI. It's that simple. And why is it important now? It's important now, we heard from the panel before, because cost of compute is going down, the amount of data, which is the fuel for AI, is going up. Access through mobile, I gave about TED talk on this about 5 years ago. I call this the big six, the super convergence of this big six. Cloud, mobile, social, big data, AI. All of these together is what fuels an AI system. We tend to get too focused on machine learning only, but it's the combination of all of this that's creating a new infrastructure in the enterprise that truly is what AI is. Expected to add a lot of impact. 15 trillion in the next 11 years is what the impact of AI is supposed to be globally. Then on the business side, CEOs have gone from saying, what is AI? So what can I do it in the business? Now they're about, so how do I go about doing it? And that'll be the discussion topic that we will have, and there's lots of monies, about 52 billion in the next 4 years that is likely to go into this space. And just like 25 years ago when the internet and web came about, you became a .com company. With AI, you're going to become a .ai company. What do I mean by that? AI to me means every business process and every business experience will get better and smarter with each interaction. Okay, because it's a feedback-driven system. I've known Amazon for 15 years. It still doesn't know me in terms of my returns process or the products that I buy. So how do you build systems that are not rules-based, but systems that are inference-based? Everything we have built in the last 75 years is rules-based, and rules-based systems don't learn. AI-based systems learn. So every business process is going to get AI-powered. Every business process is going to start improving when you engage with it. So today, there are 3 big challenges in AI. Is it practical, is it scalable, and is it trusted? There are a lot of science projects, and I'm predicting in the next 18 to 24 months, there'll be a lot of walking dead in the AI space. A lot of people running around building algorithms thinking they'll build a business out of it. I don't think they will succeed unless you take a little bit of AI can go a long way if you know where to apply it. And one of the things I had was a privilege. I was the first general manager of IBM Watson. And I was asked by the IBM board to take Watson to market. one of the first things I recognized there was it's not about the smart, it's about the rich. Rich in terms of making society richer, making finance more inclusive. So how do you make AI that's practical, scalable? Do you need PhDs to run it? Today we run AI as if Ford was trying to build cars using PhDs in mechanical engineering. It's just not scalable. He was able to build innovations like the assembly line that enabled AI cars to be built at scale. So that's the second challenge. We're not going to go on those. Where I'm going to focus on is the trusted AI challenge. What do I mean by trusted AI? It basically means three things. Is it beneficial? Is it transparent? And can I trust it? Can I control it? AI systems are self-learning systems that can go rogue on you if you are not careful on how you design it. You've heard of examples of Microsoft Tabot, which when people started feeding it information, it started saying, well, Holocaust never happened and Hitler was a great guy. As people are rolling out more and more chatbots, it's your brand that could be hacked. But if you thought Facebook was bad, wait what's coming in the next 3 to 5 years. Wikibots, there are tens of thousands of bots that are fighting online on Wikipedia, changing entries. Someone says it's a freedom fighter, the other one says it's a terrorist, and they keep changing the entries. Tens of thousands of these. Facebook invented a chatbot, it invented its own language. Freaked them out, they shut the program out because they figured out, the AI, that there's a more efficient way to communicate than us humans. Facial recognition systems. There is a soap dispenser that doesn't dispense to a black hand, it only dispenses to white hands because the way the data was used and how it was trained had light color images in it. And there was a game that was invented that the AI was told, go figure out how to compete. It invented new weapons that the human beings didn't even know was possible, took out the entire human players, all the human players. Right? So these are examples of issues that we are still playing games with it. As someone said, this is not exactly Terminator, but we are playing with bombs. It's not going to be something the next 5 years that's going to run our world, but it is going to be something that's going to create a lot of Hiroshimas, mini Hiroshimas. And I think that's the part that I'm on the mission for, to say, how do you build trusted AI systems? And if we don't, in financial services, we could have financial shocks in the financial system be amplified by AI systems because there were unintended behaviors that you did not see in these automated trading systems. There could be reputational risk from wrong data. If you thought fake news was bad, wait till fake videos come about. And they are happening. Harming the most vulnerable. One of the most things I'm excited about AI is the power for AI to be inclusive in terms of financial services. How do you get people institutional grade information, even a regular consumer? We won't have time to go through all this, but we will discuss some of it. But the important part from a fintech perspective is to design AI from a human and benefit perspective, not from a technology perspective, right? There's nothing artificial about AI. It's all real. It's going to impact real people and real societies. And I think building AIs we can trust is what we really need to focus on. And one piece I'm working on, one more slide, then we'll have our discussion, is I founded a nonprofit 2 years ago called AI Global, and we're working with the G7 and the D9 countries and a lot of companies in town like Barclays and London Stock Exchange on how do we start building responsible AI frameworks. And these are the 5 dimensions. I won't have the time to go through it. But when someone says responsible AI, we've got to be able to address all of these things in your system design. So with that, I'm going to pause and have Chris come back up here to introduce our Fireside Chat.
Thank you, Manoj. One more round of applause for Manoj. This next gentleman is equally as amazing. May not have driven a car across Africa, but he has won several medals in swimming. And he also once shared the stage with Joe Brown. Lord Chris Holmes of Richmond, MBE. He is an active member of the Lords with special focus on diversity and inclusion and the opportunities presented by the Fourth Industrial Revolution. An impact-driving campaigner and an esteemed thought leader. I believe that to be true. He has led the way in urging the government to look at challenges and opportunities posed by technology designed to improve public services. Please welcome both gentlemen back to the stage, Lord Chris Holmes of Richmond, MBE, and Manoj Saxena.
And Lottie, of course. That's, I thought everybody was bringing their dog today. Apparently not. Hey, Manoj, great keynote there. Facebook, Wikibots, playing with bombs, mini Hiroshimas. Are you positive of our future with AI?
You know, I actually had about 2 years ago, I had a sort of a moment, because when I was running Watson, I was pretty excited about all the good this can create. But about 2 years ago, I started realizing that it is a double-edged sword, and I've taken on a mission to start getting people to build both powerful and responsible AI systems. So forums like this are important conversation points.
How do we make it trusted, and what do you mean by trusted?
Yeah, great question. So trusted AI to me is AI that is both transparent and auditable in terms of its behavior. Because at the end of the day, an AI is a self-learning systems, and today, 99.9% of AI systems operate as black boxes. It's one thing to say, I've got a picture of a dog or a cat because a deep learning model told me, is another thing to say, I've applied that in insurance claims, I denied a claim and a patient died, I'm getting sued for 40 million, but I can't explain to you why my AI said to deny the claim. So I think what is needed is not just powerful and performant AI systems, you also need trusted AI systems that can explain themselves, and also that can mitigate things like fairness and bias, and also that are able to be prevented from hacking. It has been shown that by stop signs with 2 or 3% of noise being painted on it, a self-driving car can look at the stop sign as a yield sign. So humanly, the stop sign looks the same, but people have added small amount of noise in that image that will make a self-driving car go right through that stop sign. So it's building systems from that perspective of human impacts and societal impact back, rather than machine learning model or data out.
And do you think explainability is actually achievable, or in the final analysis, mythical?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great debate and a great point. So explainability is one of the 5 dimensions. It starts with data ownership. Are you making sure that you're using data in a way that you're authorized to use, and are you using it properly? And then second, are you using it to come up with insights and predictions that can be made explainable? Now, the reality is areas like explainability and bias, while mathematically are computable, socially, the definition of those vary quite a bit. And my view is, just because it is not perfect doesn't mean you don't implement it. The test is very simple. Can you explain to a jury why you did what you did with your automated decision system, even though it was not perfect? If you look at human decisions today, that's why we have courts of law. It may not be perfect, but I can go in and defend myself. So I think while perfect explainability may not be attainable, I think there is a good enough level of explainability that mathematically can be done today, that it behooves us, all of us, startups and SMEs and businesses, to start building systems with that proper explainability inside of it.
And as you rightly say, all of this, and indeed everything within 4IR, is absolutely rooted, predicated, and based on data. With these learning systems, is it possible for systems themselves to be able to work through bias, or are we inevitably always stuck in, if the data is partial, fragmented, garbage, then we're still in, garbage out with these systems?
Yeah, you know, I would answer it 2 ways. One is, the most important thing about AI to me is it needs to be designed from a people and values first perspective. Too often, it's designed from a data and machine learning first perspective. That's why you have so many science projects in companies today. The number 1 problem with AI today is people are not able to take it into production because it's the technology looking for a problem. But if you start coming at it from how am I using it to improve a customer experience or to improve a business process and then design back, you can then start identifying what are the right sources of data. In many cases, it's not big data. It is small data if you know what problem to solve. It's not 100 models, it's 20 models that you need to take. So when you start with a business outcome in mind, then it becomes very clear what data do I need, what models do I need, what governance do I need. And then you can put in the right tools behind it. So my way of thinking is AI today is being done, in most cases, being done wrong. is done from a science out perspective versus a business outcome in. So, but mathematically, things like explainability, things like fairness and bias, those are all very doable, very possible. It's the design point has to change.
And as you say, you regularly speak to boards around this country and around the world. What's your take on the boardroom's view, appetite for an understanding of AI?
I think it's changed dramatically last year. So about last year, when I talked to boards about digital transformation, so all of this is part of digital. Till last year, when they talked digital, they thought mobile was what came to mind. Now when I speak to them about digital transformation, they think AI. So AI has now become the frontier for digital transformation. And they have gone from, I know what it is about, so now they're saying, how do I go about it? And they have 3 questions today. One is, I have a lot of these science projects, people playing with their food, but it's not really getting into production. How do I fix getting AI into production? Number 2 is, how do I get the skills? It requires too many expensive people to do it, and that's where on the cognitive scale side, we built a product called Cortex. Think of it like an assembly line. Rather than using PhDs to build a car, you can use 10th grade folks who can be trained to build complex AI systems. So second is skills, and third is trust. How do I get the know-how so that I don't go to jail for using these things, or my brand doesn't get damaged because my AI behaved improperly? So those are the 3 challenges, I think, getting value out of it, scaling it through skills, or finding tools to reduce the skill, and then doing it in a transparent and trusted manner. That's what's on their mind.
And where we currently are as a nation, and indeed a connected world, are the public too trusting of already in operation AI?
Well, for the most part, most of the world, I think, has 2 opinions about AI. Either it's going to kill me or it's going to take my job away. And I think because the narrative of AI is being shaped by Hollywood. You come up with these silly movies that talk about stuff that is, my autocorrect on my phone doesn't work, let alone an AI ruling my world. So I think the reality is somewhere in between, where the hype has to now be replaced by what I call as a trough of disillusionment. I think over the next 3 years, AI is going to go through a trough of disillusionment, which is a good thing. It'll do a shakeout, and a lot of the hobbyists are going to get out of the market. But I have no doubt that this technology is more powerful in terms of the value for society and business than probably all of the technologies we've invented in the last 50 years. It's just very complex. It's not an easy thing to build, and I've learned that Watson has spent over $6 billion on this area, and they're still figuring things out. So I think we're going to see a shakeout, but those that come through the forest fire, we're going to see a $100 billion AI company in the next 7 years. That's probably a startup today.
And it's good that this is the reason why we got together today with Manoj's previous life. It's great that we've actually got Holmes and Watson together to try and solve this problem. See what I did there? Nice. Oh, yeah. I'm here all week. Final question before we move to the iPad and the questions from the floor. You highlight 3 key issues, and I agree entirely: skills, scale, trust. What do policymakers, what do governments have to do? What do we have to do in London and the UK to make London and the UK the place for AI companies to come, start, scale, and succeed?
No, it's a brilliant question. In fact, Charlotte and I have been spending a lot of time discussing this very topic. I think, my framework is it's educate, activate, and scale. It's 3 things. One is educate everyone as to what is AI. There is a lot of misperception about AI. AI is not a technology. It's a strategic business capability. So educating and thinking about AI the right way is important. Second is activating, events like this, doing pilots, doing collaborations with banks and governments, activating new regulatory policies, Bank of England. So when I used to be on the Federal Reserve Bank in the US, talking about how do you come up with new regulations that balance innovation with control. I think that's the second part, is activating the right sets of regulation that doesn't stifle innovation too much, and then scaling it out. And I do believe that done right, by the way, AI and blockchain, if you were to use that word, to me, blockchain is a part of AI. Machine learning and blockchain, together is going to be one of the most powerful combinations coming forward. If AI is the self-driving car, blockchain is the guardrail. And I think a place like London, where much of the banking innovations have happened, I think you can drive a whole new class of companies. Hopefully many of the fintechs that are attending the event will go on to become one of those companies.
Brilliant. And to show that we love technology, I think Chris is going to come back up and have some questions on the iPad from the intelligence in this room, which is in no sense artificial.
Don't forget, within the app, you guys can submit some questions. We do have a few here. You guys ready? Huh? Yeah. Huh? All right, here we go. How do you go about educating the public on the benefits or misconceptions of AI? Is there any sort of mass education initiative that you guys have seen or heard of?
That's a great question. I think it goes to the heart of so much of this, doesn't it, Manoj, in the sense of we can see from our history with reproductive technology, great public debate. A colleague of mine, Baroness Warnock, years ago went well. GM foods, no public debate really to speak of, not so well. So, Manoj?
Yeah. No, I think, like with anything new, I mean, if you look at how humans learn new stuff, you read about it first. You then start, playing with it, creating pilots and stuff. And then you start engaging around the pros and cons of using technology around it. So I would say it's a combination of, and there's a ton of material online. Places like Coursera, places like most of the large vendors now are providing toolkits, open source toolkits. So learning about it both by reading and doing is the first step. Second is working with your clients to come up with some practical implementations of it. And last but not the least, working with the regulators, getting proactive about it. Make no mistake about it, regulations are coming. Okay, GDPR is just the first step. Before they do it to you, I think it's important for you to start engaging with them and start defining what's the appropriate level of regulations to put in around this.
Yeah, agree.
All right. What should I look for in hiring or sourcing an AI or ML professional? What kind of skill sets, what kind of work history should that person have or that company have?
So I think it depends on what role you're looking for. At least there are three big roles around AI. One is probably the toughest one to get is not the machine learning PhD. The toughest one to get is the AI developer. Someone who can apply creative thinking, who can combine, she's someone who's got the ability to take a business knowledge, creative design thinking, and an understanding of the art of the possible, and come up with new innovative solutions. So I call it AI creators. I'm a big jazz fan. When the keyboards were launched, it did something magical to all the jazz musicians. It just unleashed this massive creativity because they could use the keyboard to compose new music. So I think there are new jazz musicians of AI that are yet to come about on these keyboards. So that probably is the toughest skill to get. That's where the value is. Then you got the second one, which is the AI, the data trainers, the data modelers, the feature engineering people. I think there you got to keep building it from the source because there are only 10,000 people, according to Google, who've got advanced AI know-how. So working with universities, working on internship programs, I do believe that machine learning in time will actually, in 5 years, start being almost non-relevant as a topic because publishing a model will soon become like publishing a web page. It can be done and at scale. So that's the second part is the machine learning skills. Then the third part is the DevOps part of it. How do you build AI systems that can be managed and rolled back? So those would be the three. The biggest thing I look for across all of them is attitude. Are they curious? Do they have an attitude of failing forward? Are they willing to sort of try and experiment with new things? So I would look for skill and I would look for attitude. Those will be kind of my two big things.
It's a massive point because the reality is we have to be able to, as you say, look at the skills, the experience of the past in a different way if we're going to plot people to the jobs of the future, some of which we don't even know the titles of yet. So as you say, it should take us to the point of really looking at potential, not just some bit of paper, CV, or if you're from the other side of the pond, resume.
Exactly. That's right.
This one's along the lines of world domination. You guys ready? It's not that bad, though. Will there be one AI system or platform that rises above the rest? So, I mean, you've had some experience with Watson. There's Alexa. There's so many different systems that are out there already. Is there one that will sort of rise above them all?
So I think there will be multiple AI platforms. Now, the big companies like IBM and Microsoft and Google would want to believe that they will be the one who will dominate. But the reality is Uber is a platform on its own right. It's built a whole new business model. So I think what AI will create is multiple tiers of platforms. There'll be a tier at a semiconductor and a hardware processing level, chips that are optimized to processing AI models. There'll be a tier at a data aggregation and data prep level. There'll be a new set of platforms on composition of AIs. And then there will be probably the most exciting one, new business models. You know, the future Airbnbs, the Baidus and others, where you will create a whole new class of businesses. So I think technology-wise, again, this is the rise of a whole new set of future leaders. And some of the larger ones, like Google and Microsoft and IBM and others, and Amazon, you would think will probably exist 10 years from now, but nothing's guaranteed in this space.
And interesting to look at the exchanges of the last turn of the 19th to 20th century, how many of those companies don't exist now. Phenomenal opportunity, but the big risk with this space is the potential, the way the model works, that it could absolutely get into a winner-takes-all scenario, and be that one, be that half a dozen companies, winner-takes-all, and the social, economic, and political consequences of that, absolutely essential to grapple with.
Yeah, I think building AI with a purpose and building AI in the right way, too much is being spent on building AI from a technology perspective, not enough from the greater good perspective. Someone has even argued that AI could spell the end of democracies. You could have these algocracies, as someone called it. But again, there is nothing inherently good or bad about AI. It's the choices and the decisions that we make on how we put it to work that will determine what future we will have.
Yeah, we are still human.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I have a question. It was along those lines. Are there guardians in place? Because I think with any technology, right? Like somebody's going to use it for evil, or for unintended consequences. Are there guardians that are being deployed anywhere?
Not enough. I mean, to be honest, I think my biggest worry right now is AI is going to make the rich more richer and the evil more evil, left on its own. That's what's going to happen. The guardians, I have a lot of hope in this next generation, the millennials and the Gen Zs, with the perspective that they have about the greater good. I think it needs to be at multiple levels. It needs to be at an individual level. These movements that we have around protecting my privacy and my data, I think that's one. Corporations, I think, are getting smarter about it. Microsoft, end of last year, they announced AI as a business risk in their annual reports. I think every company is going to start looking at AI as a risk that could massively damage their brands. And they will start putting things in place. And then last but not the least, state and federal governments, I think, will start implementing regulations around it. So it needs to be a coalition of efforts, both grassroots and top-down, very much like nuclear power.
Right.
This is nuclear power times thousands in terms of the power. It can be put to good, or it could create havoc.
Well, thank you both. One more round of applause, literally, for both of these gentlemen.